After Mikal Bridges' offensive explosion on Christmas Day against the San Antonio Spurs, I'm here to talk about where Mikal Bridges lands within the NBA small forward landscape. Let's get right into today's video. What's up, guys? It's your boy Dariel. So Mikal Bridges, 42 points against the Spurs. Super happy to see him really coming into his own, especially in the Knicks offense, especially seeing how Coach Tibbs is trusting him more and more. But after that game against the Spurs, you know me, guys. I have all these thoughts ruminating. I have all of these lists. And one thought that popped up in my mind is specifically the small forward position. And to expand further on that, how many players are we taking ahead of Mikal Bridges? Now, there are a few players on this list that we're going to be talking about. Some of them are legacy names. But I am talking about specifically this season. I am not talking about the overall career. I am simply talking about this season. How many players are we taking ahead of Mikal Bridges? And I should also note that Mikal Bridges he's kind of a tweener. He goes from shooting guard to small forward, but I feel like his more natural position is a small forward position. And I took a look at just like ESPN on the NBA.com website. I took a look and I saw that they listed him as small forward in a lot of times. So for this list, again, we're going to be talking about small forwards specifically for this season, the 2024-2025 season. How many players are we taking ahead of Mikal Bridges? Now, before we start talking about the list, let's just dive into Mikal Bridges' numbers for the year. We're looking at 18 points, 3.3 assists, 3.3 rebounds. He's played into 30 games this season. Field goal attempts, he has 15, 14.9, I'm rounding up, 15, and he's made 7.5 of those 15 field goal attempts, which equates to 50%. Love that. Three-pointers made is 2.5 on 6.8, which is 7 three-point attempted, which equates to 37.1%. Again, the Mikal Bridges, the narrative around his name with the first season being with the New York Knicks is he has a good game and then he has a bad game. And then he has a good game and he has a bad game. So it's kind of like up and down. As a Knicks fan, we do need to give him and the Knicks, we got to be a little bit more patient. It's still a work in progress, but for the most part, having him on the team is 100% a positive thing. And I know you guys could bring up the whole 5 first-round draft picks, the amount that we gave up to get him just to be a rotational player. Like, are we really looking for Mikal Bridges just to be a rotational player? Should he be having more impact on the team? Not necessarily, especially with Jalen Brunson and Cat and the way they've been looking. But Mikal Bridges, if you guys want to break it down into your third option or however you want to break that down, Mikal Bridges being the third best player on the team, I think it's a pretty good thing. We saw when he was with the Phoenix Suns with Chris Paul and Devin Booker that he was more of a rotational piece. And then when he got traded to Brooklyn for Kevin Durant, that half season he was the go-to guy. And then there was talks around the league saying how like, oh, I didn't know Mikal Bridges was this type of player. I didn't know he could be the best player on the team. But then things kind of like came back down to earth. Again, then he had a full season with the Brooklyn Nets where he was the number one option, and the numbers and just the way things looked just didn't really look great. So now Mikal Bridges is back into his sweet spot where he's a rotational player. So that's my breakdown of Mikal Bridges, and those are the numbers for Mikal Bridges for this season. We got to take into account his durability. We got to take into account his experience going to the NBA Finals. We're going to be looking at a lot more than just the numbers that the players are averaging for this season. And before I go any further, there are 2 names that are absolutely not included on this list. One of the names is because it's not even a conversation. I'm taking this player over Mikal Bridges, and that's Jason Tatum. Jason Tatum, he is so overlooked in any of the top 10 or top 5 conversations or just best player in the league. Like, he is so overlooked and disrespected. I mean, when you have the type of talent that you have around him, then you can make the argument that you're in a position as far as being the best player, the best team in the East, as far as being the number 1 seed in the East because of the talent that has amassed around you. But Jason Tatum, man, I feel bad for him because he needs that Finals MVP. In my opinion, he's the best player on the Boston Celtics, no question. But he's going to need that Finals MVP to solidify that spot. And until he gets it, he's in the same spot that Steph Curry is in until he got his Finals MVP. It's like, he's a great player, but that's where Jason Tatum is. But as far as this season, Jason Tatum is 100% not in this conversation because Jason Tatum, comparing his numbers, comparing his resume as well to Mikal Bridges, like, it's Jason Tatum, and it's Jason Tatum by a landslide. The skills, the talent, what he's able to bring to the table, it's 100% Jason Tatum. So that's one name. The other name that I am absolutely excluding from this list is not on a positive thing. It's actually on a negative thing. Kawhi Leonard. Kawhi Leonard, you're out of here, bro. No chance in hell I'm taking Kawhi Leonard over Mikal Bridges. Listen to this. I'm taking Mikal Bridges over Kawhi Leonard 10 times out of 10. Yes. And you know why? Because Mikal Bridges is available. Mikal Bridges plays. Mikal Bridges doesn't play for one full season, and then the next season, he's injured in the first game. Mikal Bridges doesn't get injured in practice. Mikal Bridges doesn't get injured in the limo drive to the arena to play a game. Mikal Bridges doesn't get injured in practice. Mikal Bridges doesn't invent load management. Are you kidding me? And that's only the things that I thought of at the top of my head. I am not taking Kawhi Leonard over Mikal Bridges at all. I don't care about the championship ring. That ring was fugazi because if Klay Thompson was able to stay healthy, I'll give you Kevin Durant. Kevin Durant being hurt, popping his Achilles tendon, I'll give you that. But if Klay didn't pop his ACL, I am 100% confident that the Golden State Warriors would have beat the Raptors, probably in 7 games. I just needed to make that disclaimer because if you guys kill me in the comments for not including Kawhi Leonard, for not including Jason Tatum, now you know. So, without further ado, let's get right into the names. Let's bring up the first player. And the first player we're going to be talking about, Paul George. Take a look at the numbers, 16 points, 5.8 rebounds, 5 assists. He's only played in 17 games this season. 17 games. Let's break the numbers down further. Field goal made, 5.8, round that up to 6 out of 14 field goals attempted, which equates to 41.4%. Three-pointers made, we're looking at 2 on 6.4, 6.5 three-pointers attempted, that equates to 33%. That is not good, especially for somebody of Paul George's caliber. Now, like I said earlier in the video, we're not just going to be talking about the numbers that the players are averaging for this season. We're going to be talking about the durability, their experience, how far they've gone into the playoffs. And Paul George for this season, I'm taking Mikal Bridges over Paul George. There's no question in my mind. That's an automatic hand wave for Paul George. But I just want to dive a little bit more deeper into it because, of course, Paul George is dealing with what? He's dealing with an injury. And that's something that's kind of hindered Paul George's career. When he's healthy, he's a top 10 player in the league. There's no question about it. We've seen it before. He's done that in his career. Besides the injury bug that keeps haunting Paul George, what about the fact that whenever Paul George's number is called upon, does he show up when the moments count? The only example I can think of is when he was with the LA Clippers and they were finally able to reach the Western Conference Finals. Of course, Kawhi Leonard got injured en route to the Western Conference Finals. I believe it was in the first round against the Utah Jazz, or it might have been second. But Kawhi Leonard went out, and then Paul George was looked at as the go-to guy. And then they ended up losing to the Phoenix Suns, I believe, in 6 games. But me personally, I'm in the camp of if Paul George is your best player or your second best player on your team, you're not really going to go anywhere. But focusing on this season, let's bring it back. Let's circle around and let's bring it back to this season. I'm taking Mikal Bridges over Paul George. And the number one reason why, besides the numbers, I hate to say it, but durability. We're looking at 17 games for Paul George, and we're looking at 30 games for Mikal Bridges. Like, is this a serious question? I'm taking Mikal Bridges. And on top of that, Paul George, he's not on his last legs. He's just on the other side of his career. So Paul George, at one point, he was looked at as one of the better defenders in the league, just one of the better two-way players in the league. You probably have him right behind Kawhi Leonard, or maybe 2 spots behind Kawhi Leonard when Paul George was in his prime. But with all the injuries, just with all the stuff that's happened within his career. And again, him being on the other side of his career, he's just not that player anymore. And Mikal Bridges, he's in his prime. He's hitting his prime. So I think this is an easy decision. I'm taking Mikal Bridges over Paul George. Next up, the next player we're going to be talking about, Jimmy Buckets. Jimmy Butler. Now, before I go into the numbers and before I go into kind of his like history with just the NBA and how he's led teams to the NBA Finals, I should note that on Christmas Day, Shams had breaking news. The breaking news was that Jimmy Butler would like to be traded from the Miami Heat. And earlier news within the week, the teams that Jimmy Butler, I guess, listed, that teams that he would want to go to, we're looking at Dallas, Golden State. I believe Phoenix was in there, or I might be making that up. Dallas, Golden State, Houston. Those three, I'm 100% sure. The Phoenix Suns, I might be making up. But Dallas, Golden State, and Houston, those are definitely the three teams that are on his list. But it's going to be interesting to see what happens with Jimmy Butler, because depending on what team gets him and what they give up with the remaining pieces around Jimmy Butler, like, Jimmy Butler is no joke, man. He definitely gets overlooked as one of the better players in the league because I can't really pinpoint as to why, but this guy has 2 finals appearances within the last 5 years. 2020 Miami Heat against the Lakers in the bubble. And then, 2 seasons ago where they lost to the Denver Nuggets in 5, but they were the 8th seed, beating Milwaukee Bucks and Giannis in the first round. The opposite could be said of Jimmy Butler compared to Paul George. When the moment counts and when his name is called upon, Jimmy Butler rises to the occasion. But again, let's circle back around and let's talk about this season. Am I taking Mikal Bridges over Jimmy Butler, or am I taking Jimmy Butler over Mikal Bridges for this season? Butler for the season, averaging 18.5 points, 5.8 rebounds, 4.9 assists. He's played in 20 games this year. Field goals made, 6 out of 11 field goals attempted, which equates to 55%. Three-pointers made, 0.5. And 1.4 3-points attempted, which equates to 35.7%. Three-pointers isn't really Jimmy Butler's game. His game is more of a mid-range, kind of like DeMar DeRozan, mid-range game, off the dribble, attacking, very physical. So three-pointers was never really a part of his game, and I respect that for Jimmy Butler, not really trying to change with the times. But just like I did with Paul George, we got to talk about Jimmy Butler and just his resume, man. Well, like I said earlier, 2 finals, NBA Finals appearance, 2020 in the bubble. Nobody was expecting Miami to come out of the East. It was Boston or Miami, and I think Philly might have been in the conversation, but they ended up getting smoked in the first round, getting swept 4-0 in the first round to Boston. So they lose in 6 to the Lakers, and there's that iconic image of Jimmy Butler when he gets fouled and he's just like going to the side, or he's going to like the baseline. What's that called? Just whatever, like a gate or whatever. And he's just exhausted, and you see him just like leaning over, catching his breath. So he gave everything he got, but he just ran up against Anthony Davis, who was able to miss, 4 months. And I know everybody else was able to rest and get those 4 months off, but there's nobody can change my mind that those 4 months off, or however long it was because of the COVID break, it benefited Anthony Davis the most, and Jimmy Butler had to go up against that. LeBron James, Alex Caruso, Kyle Kuzma, like that team, Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, that team was stacked, man. And I will never understand to this day why Rob Pelinka broke up that team. JaVale McGee was on that team. Dwight Howard was on that team. I will never understand that. But I'm not a Laker fan. This is not a Heat Digest channel or a Laker Digest channel. This is a Knick Digest channel. And if we're talking about this specific season, Mikal Bridges or Jimmy Butler, this is a little bit more interesting than the Paul George one. This one, Mikal Bridges, 30 games over Jimmy Butler, 20 games. Of course, I'm not Albert Einstein, but 30 is more than 20. And Mikal Bridges is on his Ironman pursuit. Not even just this season. Mikal Bridges has been on the Ironman pursuit ever since he entered the league. Like, the guy just doesn't miss games. And Jimmy Butler, within the last few seasons, like, yeah, he's been out with knick-knack injuries. Maybe all those NBA Finals runs are really starting to catch up with him. I think the beginning of this season, like, he played in the first game and then he went out with an ankle injury. So I'm taking Mikal Bridges for this season. This season, I'm taking Mikal Bridges, but it's a little bit closer than the Paul George or Mikal Bridges. Paul George, Mikal Bridges, hand wave. Paul George, picking Mikal Bridges. Mikal Bridges and Jimmy Butler, it's a little bit of a conversation, but I am taking Mikal Bridges. Now, the next name I'm very interested to dive into the numbers, to talk about the way he plays, and to really have this conversation with basically myself. But of course, you guys are watching this, so let's get into the name. We are talking about Franz Wagner. Very interesting. 24.5 points, 5.7 assists, 5.6 rebounds in the 25 games that he's played this season. Field goals made, 8.8, ramped that up to 9. So we're looking at 9 field goals made, and that is on 18.9 field goals attempted, which equates to 46.5%. Three-pointers made, 2 three-pointers made on 6.5 three-pointers attempted. That is 32%. Now, Franz Wagner, currently he's out with an injury. It's the same injury that Paolo Banchero's out. It's that oblique. And I actually didn't know what the oblique muscle was until I looked it up. It's one of your muscles that, like, I guess supports your abs. I thought it was a muscle in your finger, but whatever. Franz Wagner, prior to his injury, like, he was balling. Looking at his numbers here, the last game that he played was on December 6th. He had 30 points, 5 rebounds, 5 assists against the Philadelphia 76ers. The game prior to that, he had 35 points against Philly. That's a back-to-back game. 35, 7, and 2. The game prior to that was against our New York Knicks. He had 30 points. The game prior to that was Brooklyn. He had 20. The game prior to that was 29 against Brooklyn. The game prior to that was 21 against Chicago, 21 against Charlotte, 30 against Detroit. He had 37 against the Lakers. That was on November 21st, and that was when he hit that buzzer beater to win the game. But Franz Wagner, man, this is very interesting because as far as being an option on the team, Mikal Bridges is going to lose that conversation because Franz Wagner, when everybody's healthy with Orlando Magic, he is the second option behind Paolo Banchero. And Mikal Bridges just isn't. It's Jalen Brunson and Cat. It's going to be Cat 1 or Jalen Brunson 1 or whatever, vice versa. So Mikal Bridges is at a bit of a disadvantage, but we also got to take a look into, just like I did with Paul George and just like I did with Jimmy Butler, we got to take a look at their resume. Franz Wagner hasn't been to the playoffs that much. He's only been to the playoffs once, which was last season. And yeah, they lost in 7 games to the Cleveland Cavaliers, but one of the biggest reasons that they actually lost was because Franz Wagner actually forgot how to shoot, basically. I can't put it in any other way. He forgot how to shoot. And now we're getting into the conversation of like, okay, yeah, you're a good player, you're a good regular season player, but when the lights are on the brightest, when your name is called upon, are you going to show up or are you going to shrivel up? And the only example we have to show is he's going to shrivel up. He forgot how to shoot. Paolo Banchero was out there by himself. Besides Franz Wagner forgetting how to shoot, just the Orlando Magic team, they just couldn't hit their shots. Jalen Suggs, Jonathan Isaac, Paolo at times looked a little skeptical. But Franz Wagner, aside his resume, the type of player that he is, I love his game, man. I believe he's like 6'10", able to put the ball on the floor. His shot is a work in progress. After that 7-game series against the Cleveland Cavaliers, where everybody's saying he forgot how to shoot, then he went into the Olympics this past summer. He played for Germany, and it looked like he was starting to get his shot back. Going into this season, it seems like he's getting back into the flow of things. It's a shame that he went out with the oblique injury, but before the injury, I gave you the numbers. He was balling out. Man, this is also another tricky one. Man, Franz has played in the 25 games this season prior to that oblique injury. Mikal Bridges hasn't missed any games. Like I keep saying, the Iron Man pursuit, man. The Iron Man pursuit. I mean, I feel like it's cheating. It's a bit of a cheat code if I'm going to like use that as a really big disclaimer, you know? Like if I'm using that for everybody, then it's Mikal Bridges over everybody. But then if we dive a little bit deeper into basketball, into the skills, into what you're able to bring to the table, I don't know, man. Would I want Mikal Bridges over Franz or vice versa? This is tricky. We've never seen Franz in the position that Mikal Bridges has been in. Franz has always been the best player or the second best player on the team. Before Paolo Banchero got there, Franz was the best player on the team, and they weren't really doing much. But now that Paolo Banchero has been an all-star, now that Paolo Banchero is looked at as the best player on the Orlando Magic, Franz has slid to that number 2 spot. And again, currently this season, Mikal Bridges is not the number 2 option for the Knicks. We've seen Mikal Bridges be the best player on a team with I was gonna say New Jersey Nets. That's crazy. With the Brooklyn Nets, and that wasn't great. I might go Mikal because of just what he's able to do on both ends of the floor. Franz Wagner, even though I love his skills and his talent and what he's able to do with his offensive skills, we don't really talk about Franz as far as like being one of the better perimeter defenders. And you got to take everything into account. You got to take your offensive skills. You got to take your defensive skills. And yeah, if I'm talking about basketball players, what do I want in my basketball player? I want you to be able to play on both ends of the floor. So I might take Mikal. But honestly, if you guys kill me in the comments for not taking Mikal, for not taking Franz over Mikal, like, I'm not going to be mad at that. This is the trickiest one that I've brought up so far. And we have a couple of names to go. But for this one, with Franz and Mikal Bridges, I'm taking Mikal. Okay, so now for the last two names, if you guys remember in the beginning of the video, I said that some of the names that I'm going to bring up are legacy names. So let's get right into it. The first name I want to bring up, I'm talking about the Slim Reaper himself, KD, easy money sniper, averaging 27 points, 6.7 rebounds, 3.8 assists in the 18 games that he's played this season. Field goals made, 9.7. Let's bump that up to 10. 10 field goals made on 18.5 field goals attempted, which equates to 52.5%. Three-pointers, 2.6 on 6 3-points attempted, which equates to 42.7%. Love that. Now, KD only playing 18 games this season. He had an ankle injury. There's been some talk around KD's name talking about like he's just like injury prone now. And I don't necessarily believe that. The ankle injury that he had earlier this year, he didn't even step on anyone's foot. He literally just planted his foot and his ankle rolled. That's just kind of like just bad luck. This isn't something that's like a chronic knee ailment. It's not something that's just like hovering over his career, over his playing days. Yo, one thing that KD doesn't get credit for is how good of a off the ball defender he is, especially like a help side defender. When he went to the Golden State Warriors, mind you, I think I agree with Stephen A. Smith. I think it's one of the worst moves a superstar has ever made, teaming up with Steph Curry, who's still one of the better players in the league. But when he went to the Golden State Warriors, something that popped out to me was his help defense. Like, he was blocking shots at the rim, and he was, especially that first season, he was making it a point to make everybody know that he could be a good defender when he wants to be. Now, what KD is known for is just being an offensive dog, straight up. Basically 7 foot tall. Just the handles are crazy, putting the ball on the floor. We know how exceptional he is in mid-range, the three-point numbers I just gave you. Like, KD's a cheat code in himself. But again, we got to talk about Mikal Bridges this season and KD this season. And I'm not using Mikal Bridges, the amount of games he played this season and his Ironman pursuit. I'm not going to use that against every NBA player that I brought up because that's kind of a cheat code and it's kind of not fair. But once we get past that, KD is still playing at a really high level, and he's 36, I believe, or he's 37. He's still playing at a really high level. I'm still choosing KD, bro. I'm still choosing KD because of all the talk that you guys are going to have talking about KD still hasn't proven that he could be the best player on a championship-winning team. Like, I don't really fall for that. When he teamed up with the Golden State Warriors, I didn't like the decision that he made. But winning back-to-back championships, winning back-to-back finals MVP, like, he proved that he could be the best player on a championship team. And Chris and Matt think that Kevin Durant was not the number one option on those Golden State teams. And they are absolutely, I don't know what they are smoking. Everything was ran through KD. Everything. Steph just happened to be the number two option. Having Steph Curry as the number two option is ridiculous, is insane. But yeah, Chris and Matt thinking that KD was not the number one option during that run, yeah, they need to have a doctor's appointment because that's crazy. And KD, for everything he's done during his NBA tenure, like, I hate to say it, but like, it's between LeBron, Steph, and KD. Steph and KD, actually LeBron this season, you've been seeing him having some nights where it's like, oh yeah, you're actually 40. But those three guys, like, you can tell, like, within the next 3 seasons, they're going to be out of here. For sure, they're going to be out of here. But between KD and Mikal Bridges, I'm still picking KD all the way until the end. And the last guy I'm going to bring up, I mean, I think you guys know who I'm talking about. I'm talking about King James himself, averaging 23.2 points, 9 assists, 8 rebounds in the 27 games he played this year. My man is 40 years old. When I'm recording this, I believe I'm recording this on Christmas Day. So I believe next Monday is his birthday, December 30th. My man is 40 years old, averaging 23, 9, and 8. That is absurd. I don't think I'm ever going to see that ever again in my lifetime. And if we break the numbers down even further, field goals made, 8.9, bump that up to 9. So 9 field goals made on 17.9, bump that up to 18. 9 field goals made on 18 field goals attempted, which equates to 49.5%. 3-pointers made, we're looking at 2, 3 points attempted, 5.7, a 6. Could definitely be better, but the 3-point ball was never part of LeBron's game. He definitely added that during his tenure in his career, which salute to LeBron. The 3-point numbers that equates to 35.3%. But LeBron James, man, what else can anybody say about LeBron that hasn't been said? The guy's a freak of nature. I honestly don't think we're going to see this again for a very long time. Someone that was automatically the best player on his team from the very first day of his rookie season up until his very last season, which is probably going to be in the next 2 to 3 seasons. LeBron is probably going to be the best player on his team, and that's part of the reason why the Lakers are in the situation they're in. LeBron still being the best player, like, you need someone else to step up. I'm pointing at you, Anthony Davis. But again, circle back around, Mikal or LeBron. Yo, you guys might actually go crazy on me in the comments, but I'm picking Mikal. I'm picking Mikal because, I'm talking about this season, and are we going to ignore the elephant in the room? LeBron doesn't really play defense anymore. He only plays defense when he wants to, and Mikal Bridges plays all the time. I'm not even talking about just him playing the game. I'm talking about when he's in the game, he locks up. And LeBron James, when he's in the game, he decides and chooses when he wants to play defense. So this is not a legacy talk. This is not a resume talk. I use that to give a little bit of context and to flush it out between the players. But ultimately, I'm making a decision based upon what they have done this season. Now, what they've done this season, I mean, you got to give it up to LeBron. LeBron is still putting up great numbers. I mean, the game against Golden State today, I believe he had 31 points, 4 rebounds, 10 assists, a strong double-double, 12 of 22 from the field. That's 55%, 2 of 4 from three-point line, looking at 50%. And then the game prior to today, he had 28 and 11. The game prior to that, he had 32 and 7, 19 and 6, 18 and 8. He had 39 points and 10 rebounds against the Atlanta Hawks on December 6th. Like, this guy is putting up, like, on any given night, he could be the best player on the floor. And more times than not, he is going to be the best player on the floor. But listen, man, like, for this season, I also got to bring up the fact that, like, LeBron took that weird sabbatical and, like, a week ago where he just decided that he was not going to play. Now, I should give a little bit of context with that because it was during the semifinals and the finals of the NBA Cup. And the scheduling was weird. It's like if you didn't make it to the semifinals or the finals, then you basically just were not playing, which is weird for the NBA. But LeBron definitely took advantage of that time period, and the 1 or 2 games that the Lakers had within that week, LeBron just didn't play. So he had probably like a week and a half of rest. But this is what I'm saying about LeBron. LeBron at this point of his career, and deservingly so. Like, he's done this for 20 years. He has earned every right to decide when he wants to just sit down when he feels like it. He deserves that. But you also got other guys playing all the time. And yeah, I'm not going to ignore that. I'm not ignoring that at all. And again, this is not a legacy talk. This is what have you done for me this season. And LeBron, I keep saying it, man. I'm just repeating myself, but there are nights where, dude, he has horrible nights. There's like 2 to 3 games this season, and that's crazy. I could only point to 2 or 3 games, but like, I'm only comparing LeBron to LeBron. A few games this season, he had like 3 for 16 from the field, and he just did not have it. The legs were just not there. And when you compare that to other LeBron seasons, like it was never that. This is the first season where you could undoubtedly see LeBron is definitely wearing down. His age is finally catching up to him, which I thought would have been probably like 4 years ago, honestly, 4 or 5 years ago. And the fact that we're seeing it when he's 40 years old, that this is the first indication of his decline, that's absolutely absurd. But overall, I think I'm taking Mikal over LeBron because of the defense. LeBron doesn't really play defense anymore, only when he wants to. And when he wants to, it's very few and far in between. But between LeBron and Mikal, yeah, I think I'm choosing Mikal, man. And based on, like I said earlier, I want my players to be able to impact the game on both sides of the floor and not pick and choose when he wants to play on both sides of the floor. So you guys are going to kill me in the comments, but that's just how I feel. So guys, this was a lengthy video, but based upon Mikal Bridges' offensive breakout game against the Spurs, it just got my mind to think, and I started thinking about the players that I'd actually pick before Mikal Bridges, or that I'd pick Mikal Bridges over. And my mind just got to thinking, and I thought it'd be a fun exercise. So if you guys checked out this video, I want to say thank you so much for checking it out. Make sure to hit that thumbs up. Make sure to subscribe. Do all that good stuff. But until next time, you know the drill. You know the vibes. Jalen Brunson for all the MVPs. The deuce is loose for co-MVP. OG Anunoby for Defensive Player of the Year. Taj Gibson. It's all love, baby. Taj Gibson for President. And of course, it's always Queens forever. I'll take you out in the next video. Peace.